All right, what's up guys? Well, today I want to talk about a couple of interior detailing products that might be one of the best combinations for all things interior, and that is Koch-Chemie Pol-Star, Leather-Star, and Top-Star. So these are, they're not new to the market, but they're kind of new to me. So if you are an experienced detailer, you've already heard of these, you've probably used them. But if you're relatively new to the insane world of detailing products, then hang out, because we're gonna go through these one by one. Spoiler, I can't believe how good the interior turned out. I loved them all, but we'll get into all that in a minute. By the way, before we get started, if you like the style of demo and review and everything like that, subscribe, because there is going to be a lot more of these style videos. Okay, now before we get into the chemicals and everything like that, I want to talk about the tools real quick, because in addition to trying some new products, I wanted to try a couple of different, tools and applicators to use these. So usually when I do an interior cleaning, I use P&S Express Interior Cleaner with a brush and a microfiber towel just to wipe everything down, usually call it a day. But for this, again, I wanted to try some new stuff. So I have a Koch-Chemie foamer bottle here for the Pol-Star. I feel like using the foam was, a little more concentrated, not concentrated in strength, but concentrated in terms of application in order to not just, spray product everywhere. So this thing is actually kind of cool. Also, still using the brush for like hard to reach areas, center console, buttons, dash, cup holders, stuff like that. And then also this is awesome. This is a Ninja scrubber. So you get one side that's microfiber and then the other side that is nylon bristles. So really good for scrubbing to get some areas that usually you're not gonna get as effectively with just a microfiber towel. So very cool product. And then because I'm doing a leather conditioning. Normally, if it was just for the leather seating, I would just wipe everything down with a microfiber towel. But because we're gonna do a leather conditioning, I wanna make sure that the cleaner is agitated into the leather. So using a color lock brush, any brush, with reasonably stiff bristles will work fine, but this is the one that I have. Now, starting with the Pol-Star. So this is Koch-Chemie's pH neutral all-purpose cleaner. So you can use this on practically everything in your interior. I used it on, the leather, rubber, and plastic and trim and all stuff like that. But you can use it on your floor mats, you can use it on the carpet. So if you have like a drill brush and maybe an extractor, you can use it there. If you have some nasty film on your interior glass, you can use that as a precursor to your actual glass cleaner. The only thing I wouldn't use this on is like your screens. So if you have like a screen or anything like that, you might want to use something like Koch-Chemie all-round surface cleaner, but everywhere else you can use this stuff. If you have a really nasty interior, even if your interior is sufficiently dirty, this should work pretty well. If you have a really bad interior, you might want to step it up to something like Green Star, which is heavier duty, and you can even use that in your engine bay. For me, my car really was not that gross. I mean, it was, a lot of dust everywhere. Some of the areas were a little dirtier, like steering wheel, e-brake, handle shifter, stuff like that. But everywhere else, pretty mild. So the Pol-Star, even diluted 1 to 10, I think was more than enough. As a cleaning agent, this stuff, I gotta tell you, man, this, I think in combination with the Ninja scrubber, it worked out really well. So again, those real dirty areas, particularly the steering wheel, there was stuff going on that steering wheel, I had no idea. Like that's one of those areas where, you clean it, and then it just slowly gets dirty over time and you don't quite realize it until you clean it again. You're like, oh, this is what this is supposed to feel like, when it's clean. So this stuff worked really well in terms of cleaning stuff like that, and that was evident by how the pad looked when I was done with it. In terms of, any residue or anything like that, again, I used the foam bottle for pretty much everything and then a brush in some other areas to apply it, but it didn't leave any kind of residue anywhere that I couldn't get to the foam, like so in the crevices of buttons and things, when I went back and wiped it with a microfiber towel, anywhere that I couldn't reach, just, flash dried on its own, didn't leave any kind of a residue. So really happy with the finish of this. And you wouldn't expect that with a cleaner anyway, but just to note that it did not leave any kind of a noticeable residue or anything. In terms of smell, I mean, this stuff, it has a cleaner smell, but it's really mild. And what I thought was interesting in particular was using the foam bottle, because it was concentrated on the Ninja scrubber, you really didn't smell it at all as you were applying it. So only when I started to do the seats and I was using a little bit more product with the brush, I could kind of get a hint of it, but by the time that you finished, it was all gone. After you wiped everything down with a microfiber towel, there was no leftover. Like sometimes you get a cleaner that it smells like you've cleaned in there. But this stuff was super mild, didn't leave anything left over, no residue, and for cleaning power, I thought it worked great. So really happy with the results of the Pol-Star. And with the foam bottle, so again, because I diluted this 1 to 10, I used less than a half ounce of product in that foamer bottle, and only because I was doing a conditioning of the leather and used the brush, which I make me tend to use a little bit more product. I used about 3/4 of the bottle once I was done, but I'm telling you, if I had just done a regular interior cleaning where I wiped down the surfaces of all the leather, I would have easily just used a half a bottle of this stuff, which means that that's about 1/4 of an ounce per interior cleaning. So dude, from a value perspective, this is pretty good. All right, next up is the Leather Star. Now this stuff is, you can use this right out of the bottle, doesn't require any kind of a dilution. How this applies, it just lays right on top of whatever you're using as your applicator. So I also used the Ninja Scrubber to apply this everywhere. The one thing I would note is that these things are a little bit stiff, so the first time that you're using them, if you need to be super precise, it's gonna be a little bit tough. So like my car has the full merino leather package, so in addition to the seats, you also have the dashboard, all of the knee bolsters around everything, half the door sills are all leather. So for those areas, it was a little tougher to be precise with this, but that's more of a note about the scrubber. As for the actual product, I mean, this stuff goes on really, really nicely. So, and I'm not comparing these to any other products that I've used before, but I will make a small comparison to the leather cleaner to what I've used similarly, which is the Color Lock Leather Protector Kit. Did a video on that last year. Fantastic product, by the way, but I'll talk about that in a second. So this stuff goes on, when it goes on, it looks shinier. It's not glossy, but it looks a little bit shinier than you'd expect, but that's not how it finishes. You give it like maybe a minute or two to actually kind of soak into the leather, and it has a really nice finish. It's like a nice sheen on the leather. It kind of brings out like the rich sort of deepness of the leather, regardless of what colored leather you have. My entire interior is black, so it ended up just giving all that leather a nice deep black look, which is cool because leather is another one of those things where if you go too long without conditioning it or treating it with something, it starts to dull. You kind of don't really notice it until you go and condition it again. And you're like, again, that's what leather is supposed to look like. So this stuff, I was really happy with how this all finished. It's not oily, doesn't have any kind of a slipperiness or anything like that. In terms of smell, you can tell that they used a fragrance on this because it has like it's got like a very cottony sort of linen type smell. It's a very clean smell, but it's subtle, so it's not anything strong. You definitely don't get any of that chemical kind of vibe from this. But yeah, overall, how it cleaned up, how it finished was really, really nice. And what I liked most about it is how easy it was to apply. Like you could clearly tell the area that you had coverage over what hasn't yet been covered. And so it suggests that you use like a damp cloth or a sponge or something like that to apply it. And so again, I used the Ninja Scrubber on the microfiber side, and that was perfect. You can use this on perforated leather, you can use it on regular leather, and yeah, man, overall, I think this stuff worked really well. Now here's the one comparison to the Color Lock stuff. So I noticed that after using the Color Lock, right, it came back the next day and you could clearly tell that the leather had been treated. It was a little, like you got in the seat, you could kind of get that little shimmy in there to feel like it had been, it was not slippery. I don't want to give that impression, but it was just a little, you could tell there was something sitting on the leather. This stuff, it's kind of like that, but just less of it. And I don't think that's a pro or a con. I just think it's worth pointing out that after you use this, you get the idea that the leather has been cleaned and treated, but it's not like, you don't get that sort of extra, I don't know, I hate to use the word slippery, but you know what I mean. You just don't get that feeling that anything really slick has been applied. But again, it does not finish glossy, slick, oily, anything like that. So I thought that was a really great product. And finally, Pol-Star. Now this is the one product I was most excited to try out of these three because I don't usually put anything else on the other surfaces of my interior. Like I said, I usually just wipe everything down with P&S Express interior cleaner. Sometimes I treat the leather, but I usually kind of ignore the plastics and the rubbers and all stuff like that. And by the way, that's probably doing a disservice to your interior because something like Pol-Star, it has anti-static properties. So, it's a bit of a dust repellent. It has UV protection. So if your car sits outside in the sun, you get some protection there. But really, it's how it makes your interior look. So, in my case, it's like the sides of the center console, the door panels that, like top half is leather, but everything below is all plastic. And also all of the trim. So I cleaned all of the rubber trim around the doors with the Pol-Star and then treated it with this. Dude, it looks like it just came out of the factory. You know how like rubber trim can look kind of dingy and stuff like that? It gets a little worn. This made it look brand new. It wasn't really in bad condition to start with, but you can, as you're applying it, you can clearly see what it's doing, especially after it, after it dries and you have that finished state. It's not an oily or greasy or look or anything like that. Although it is worth noting that you don't want to put this on anything where slipperiness is a concern. So it specifically calls out not putting this on floor mats or pedals or again, anywhere that you don't want it to be slippery. But I don't, and I'm sure it would be if you put it on those, but I didn't find any of the surfaces that I treated to be slippery. So after it had a chance to dry and settle in, you run your hand over like the plastic, or I used it on all the buttons and stuff like that, and nothing felt oily or slick or anything. It felt clean and finished, and really it's how it looks. It looks awesome. Now, in terms of applying this stuff, I didn't use the Ninja scrubber because again, that thing can be a little stiff, especially when you're using a brand new one. And so some of the areas that I was treating with the Top-Star needed to be precise. So I didn't want to, so like the buttons around the steering wheel, I didn't want to collide with the leather because I'd already done the leather stars. So for this, I just used a microfiber towel wrapped around my finger. This is a little bit more watery, so it just soaks right in to the microfiber towel. And I feel like with that, you can be a bit more precise with your application, or if you're doing a large area like a door panel, you can just flip the towel over, drip a little bit of this stuff on, and you get great coverage. And this is another thing, much like the Pol-Star and the Leather Star, this is another thing where you really don't use that much product to do the entire interior. So for like all three of these, the value for, you don't pay a lot for the bottle, but how much you use, or how little you use, I should say, is, dude, overall, it's a fantastic value. The last point is the smell of this stuff. So it's kind of like the Leather Star where you can tell they used a fragrance. It's a really subtle kind of fruity smell, but again, nothing that is overwhelming or overpowerful, no hint of a chemical type smell. And it leaves just like a really, actually, okay, after using the Leather Star and the Top-Star, because the Pol-Star, what little smell that has flashes off pretty quickly. The combination of the Leather Star and the Top-Star, it left my car smelling like, and this could be subjective, your results may vary, but it left my car smelling like a really clean hotel room when you go away on vacation. I don't know if if that makes sense, but it's just, it has a, between the cottony sort of linen freshness of the Leather Star and then the slight fruitiness of the Top-Star, it's just a really pleasant, far away hotel smell. So overall, again, as I said in the beginning, unbelievably happy with the combination of these three products. The Pol-Star, like it just gets everything nice and clean, but really the Leather Star and the Top-Star for treating all the materials, dude, the interior looks legit. All right, guys, well, I think that is all I got for this one. Again, I'm really happy with how all three of these came out, and I think these are gonna be my new go-tos for interior cleaning and dressing for a while. So, the Leather Star I don't have to do every time, obviously, but Pol-Star as the cleaner because of how little you use, and it really does work well. And then the Top-Star, like, I can't believe I've been missing this for all this time. So yeah, man, this I think is my new setup. I'm still in that exploratory product phase, but definitely gonna go back to these for a while. So anyway, comment below, let me know what you think. If you have these products and you have some opinions on them, I'd love to hear what they are, or if there are other products that you use that you really like, comment below and let me know. And if you're interested in any of these or the tools that I used, all of that stuff linked in the description below. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.